Cheating wife had one night stand with random a dude at the bar. She got on her knees and begged at my feet not to leave her. But I was adamant and said that she should have thought of this last night. Wife cheated on me 2 months ago. Went out drinking with her friends, happens rarely, despite asking her several times to stay home with me that night and spend time with our 2-year-old son. Apparently at the bar this dude bought her several drinks, and she got drunk as hell, which was extremely atypical of her. Her friends had a bad feeling about this and tried to bring her home, but she insisted she would take a cab, and her friends eventually left her alone with the guy. Well, as it turns out, she went home with him. The whole time I was blowing up her phone, dozens of texts and calls, and I kept asking her friends where she was, but I got no answer from them. I had never been so worried in my life. Then she comes back at 3 a.m. reeking of alcohol and covered in tears. She confessed to everything right at the door, every single detail. She didn't even know this a-hole's name yet liked him enough to go to his house and duck him on his bed. She said as soon as her head cleared up she broke down in tears over what she just did and took a cab home. Now me, I was enraged but didn't want to say or do anything since I knew I would probably go to jail if I did. I calmly told her to shower and go to sleep, then I took off my wedding ring and got out of the house, just went around driving for a bit, screaming in the car, etc. Meanwhile she's blowing up my phone with tons of messages and voicemails apologizing and begging me to come back. I come back a few hours later and she's awake, still sobbing and mumbling. I asked her what we would do now and she swore to do anything and everything to regain my trust. I was of mind to divorce immediately, but I loved my wife and connected with her more strongly than with anyone else. I didn't forgive her yet, but gave her a chance to try. She was ecstatic but still in tears, saying she doesn't deserve it, but will make the most of it. And I guess she's been true to her word. She doesn't go out to bars anymore without me, she gave me complete access to all of her stuff, she only drinks when I'm there, and she has been giving 200% to please me, cooking all my favorite meals, buying me tons of gifts, continuously apologizing, doing more housework to give me more free time, even writing poems asking for my forgiveness. She even confessed what she had done to her friends, who had been avoiding her more and more out of disgust for what she did to me. She also told her parents what she did on her own accord, and explained that she was raised better than that and is trying to save her marriage. Not once did she try to blame the cheating on me or remove any responsibility from herself. She didn't try to justify or rationalize what she had done because she knew there was nothing bad about our relationship she could go off of. She accepted full blame and owned up to her actions. She said she's willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to save our marriage. She still cries from time to time out of remorse, like before bed, during showers, sometimes just while cooking. This sounds like the perfect post-cheating course of action, I know. She is doing everything flawlessly. Despite this, I just can't get the image out of my head. Every time she tries to be intimate I think of her and him, clam up and then push her away, not violently. Since that night we haven't so much as hugged. She has tried to kiss me before, but like usual I just distance myself. I've been sleeping in the guest bedroom while she begs me to come to her, and then cries herself to sleep every night. I know that she's truly and genuinely sorry, that her remorse is real. These aren't crocodile tears that most cheaters cry when they get caught. She did everything right. She confessed to me immediately, changed her habits, and did everything I asked. She sometimes asks me if I've forgiven her yet, and I always say not yet. I mentioned possibly divorcing to her a few weeks ago, and she broke down, saying she will never love another man, will never allow another man to raise our child, that I mean everything to her and her whole world would just shatter into pieces if she lost me. I think out of all the people who have ever cheated and want to regain the trust of their partner, my wife has done the best. Despite this, I just can't forget about she did. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I think of is her in his bed with him. I have trouble sleeping now since the thought of them having sex keeps me up. I feel nauseous and numb all the time. The singular thought some other guy ducked my wife is stuck in my mind all day. I don't want this to keep happening, but I can't find any way to strike it from my mind. Every so often I feel like unleashing all my anger on her, calling her all the names in the book, telling her I hate her. Lately I find myself on a local pier, just staring out into the ocean for hours at a time. I go there to just stop thinking about what she did and escape for a while. Then when I go home, the misery starts again. I don't know if I love my wife anymore. At times I feel such a strong hatred for her that I almost vomit knowing that I married her. Sometimes I see her as she was before the cheating, and in those moments I can love her again. They don't last longer than a few seconds though. I feel like I'm the bad guy for wanting a divorce. She has been doing everything correctly since the infidelity, so I should forgive her, right? That's what most people would probably do, I guess, but I can't stop thinking about her and the other guy. I know that as long as I keep thinking about them, this marriage won't last. Our anniversary is in 9 days. This keeps triggering memories of our relationship, the wedding, the birth of our son, trips we took, happy days, etc. Now it just hurts, a really heavy pain in my chest and throat to think of them. We've been together since high school, fully committed and faithful. I just can't grasp how she could do this to me, how she could make a series of bad decisions, one after the other, to end up cheating. My mouth feels dry whenever I think of how that night must have gone. How she must have kissed him, walked into his home, to his bedroom, laid down on his bed, took off her clothes, whatever. I fantasize about cheating on her to make things even. Sometimes I imagine just hitting her over and over, but I would never do that. I never laid a finger on my wife. I don't hurt people. I've never had violent or angry thoughts like this before. My wife's adultery ducked with my head more than should be possible. I don't feel like the same person anymore. I feel hollow all the time. I'm here to ask, is there any way I can bring myself to forgive her? Or should I just divorce her and move on, find a woman who won't cheat on me? I want my son to grow up with the belief that cheating is totally unacceptable. I feel like if I stay with my wife, my son will learn that it's okay to forgive cheating, and I don't want him to ever stay with a woman who cheated on him. At the same time, I keep living every day hoping I might have an epiphany, that I can truly forgive her and love her again. Seems like a hopeless fantasy though. I'm thinking about therapy for myself. I'm sort of reluctant to do marriage counseling since I fear the counselor will try to find a way to spin the whole thing on me and blame me for creating an environment that led her to cheat. Not going to tolerate hearing that bullcrap. Please help me. I don't know what to do. I'm sick of feeling sick. Edit. I figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to her about possibly making it even somehow. I'll see what she says, and depending on her response, I might try to reconcile or divorce without a second thought. Also, I'm going to ask her for the full truth about this guy. I find it weird that she remembers he's divorced 33, and not in shape, but can't remember his name. Never mind, this is a bad idea. This was my vengeful side talking. I'm not going to try and make it even. I'm just going to get the full truth out of her, and then steel myself to suggest divorce. Yes, I want her to suffer for what she did. As one user said in a PM, she will suffer most if I leave her. In her own words, she said that would destroy her. But I'm not divorcing her just to spite her, no. I'm doing it because I don't want to remain in a ruined marriage. I'm doing it because she betrayed me, and I'm not willing to be a doormat and excuse her behavior. I probably won't change my mind, but I'll come back with an update later anyway. Update. Meant to write this yesterday, but didn't get around to it. I thought long and hard about what to do after reading all the responses and PMs, one of which said I deserved to be cheated on, and even had a phone conversation with another Redditor who was kind enough to lend me his time. I confronted her for the full truth yesterday. Same old stuff, her crying and apologizing and begging for forgiveness. She didn't remember his name since it didn't come up after their introduction, and she said the reason she kept talking to him was because he was practically drooling over her beauty, and she took pity on him for being recently divorced, losing his house, custody, money, etc. So basically my wife tried to comfort him, and got her ego stroked at the same time, then ducked him. Her phone was on silent the whole time, very unusual of her, but she wanted to hang out with her friends undisturbed. I suppose calls from her husband were considered disruptions that evening. The fact that she gave him what I interpreted as a pity duck made me lose the little respect I had left for her. She swore on her life that she would do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to regain my trust and save our marriage. I asked her what length she was willing to go to, and she said if what it takes is me doing it with another woman right in front of her, then she would go for it. If it took having a half-open relationship on my end, then she would do it. If it took her admitting to our son, when he's an adult, what she did, she would do it. She said she would do whatever it takes. I'll admit, I was surprised and touched by this. In that moment I understood that my wife was truly remorseful and loved me beyond measure. I saw that her apology, her efforts, everything she had done was genuine. I believed that she would certainly erase her crime if she could. I loved my wife. Then I remembered that many people go through life without ever cheating on their partner. That there are women who would never put themselves in such a situation that could lead to cheating. For the 12 years of our relationship, I have not strayed once, despite having several opportunities to do so. And I know that I deserve a woman who won't betray me. My wife did all she could to try and atone for her infidelity, but once something is broken you can't restore it to what it once was. I'd rather be unmarried than stay in a once broken, repaired marriage. Even if I took her back, the marriage would never be the same again, and I'm not going to torture myself with such a life. I don't want to constantly be in paranoia, wondering if my wife truly is at the grocery store, if she is actually working late or hurting me again. I told her I wanted a divorce and she broke. I explained to her why despite her pleading. She got on her knees and begged at my feet, saying that she would rather die than be without me. I told her that actions have consequences, and I will never forgive her for cheating. She kept crying and I told her to move back in with her parents for the time being. I said I would take care of our son, but she's allowed to visit him any time. She kept crying and begging, but I was firm on this. She's moving out in 2 days. I plan to meet with a divorce lawyer soon and get the ball rolling. I'm not sure if time away from my wife will change my feelings, but I strongly doubt it. She made her bed, now she can lie in it. I guess that's it. I'm going to divorce her and hopefully get my life back together. I know it's still too early to think about these things, but I've already decided to remain on civil, but minimal terms with my wife when we are divorced. Never will I entertain the idea of reconciling with her, but I will be polite in our future interactions solely for my son's sake. For the next few months that we're apart, I'm going to make the most of it. I will focus first and foremost on my son. I will periodically check in with my wife's family to see how she is doing. I won't go out and mingle with new women until I'm divorced. I will spend more time at the gym to let out my anger. I will focus my free time on my hobbies, playing the piano and painting, also as a way to let out my emotions. I won't update anymore. Thanks to all who gave advice and tried to help me make the right decision. I'm confident in what I'm doing and I pray things work out for me. I noticed my fiancée started acting weird and refused living together, so I snooped her phone and was rooted to the spot when found out she is living a double life. She has another name, 2 kids and a husband. 5 months ago I met this great woman at a bar. She was with her friends and I bought drinks for all of them and struck up conversation with her. We hit it off instantly and I took her home that night and had mind-blowing sex. She didn't stay the night though, saying she had to get up early for work. Over the next 5 months we've had an awesome relationship. We went on some nice dates and had sex at least 3 times a week. She only stayed the night very rarely, but I didn't think much of this as she did indeed have to get up early. Anytime I tried to suggest possibly living together she said she wasn't ready for that yet. Understandable. We did hang out at her place a few times, but just like her staying the night, it was very rare. I just chalked this up to her feeling more comfortable at my apartment since it was cozier. Silly me to not question why an apparently single woman lived in a big house. I have Facebook, but I don't use it or any other social media. I think it's a waste of time, and she told me she doesn't use it either. Well, last week I decided to mess around on Facebook for a bit, and found her profile seeing as we have 2 mutual friends, really just acquaintances for me. This is where it gets weird. Her name was totally different from what I had known her as. She's seemingly happily married and has 2 kids around ages 3 and 6. She posts a ton of pictures of her and her husband doing all sorts of coolie stuff, so I doubt they're separated or going through a divorce. She has never told me any of this. I figured out pretty quick that I was the other man, and honestly, I feel physically ill knowing that. I have a visceral hatred for cheaters, and I feel just gross that I've done this. I feel so stupid that I never figured this out earlier. Either I'm just an idiot or she hid this masterfully, maybe both. She never once mentioned being married with children, saying that she was single. Even when I went to her house, I didn't see any family pictures or any traces of her family. This which actually made the effort to hide any indications that she was married and had kids. I feel sick just typing this. I haven't contacted her since I found out, with the excuse that I need to focus on my job for a bit. She was cool with it, still sends some explicit photos and texts, and how eager she is to see me again. I responded half-heartedly, but only to stop her from getting suspicious. God, I feel nauseous. I'm going to tell her husband. This is just so wrong, and it hurts me to know that this man is being deceived by his terrible wife. This hits close to home since my aunt pulled this crap on my uncle, and he is the kindest man alive. Thankfully, I have a habit of not deleting any texts manually, so I still have the majority of our texts. I screenshotted everything so I could show them to her husband. I want to figure out a way to meet him in person, but I feel like he's going to tell his wife, "Oh hey honey, some guy named Other Man Problems asked me to meet him for coffee," and that will allow her to shovel some BS down this throat. From his Facebook I found out where he works, so I'm thinking I could try and catch him shortly after he leaves. I plan to divulge all details of the affair, give him all the screenshots, and for my own safety, explain that I had no idea she was married. I don't know if proof of infidelity will help him out, but I feel like it's the least I can do. I'm still sickened that she could lie to her family like this, so I hope she gets what's coming to her. Some of you might suggest that he has a fetish, or maybe they have an open relationship, or some garbage like that. Really, what are the chances? Besides, if he really did have a fetish, I'm sure she would have either mentioned it or took pics videos of us having sex, so she could show it to him, or maybe even have sex in his presence. And if they were in an open relationship, I'm certain she would have told me that. No, I'm pretty sure she's cheating on her husband. So what should I do? Should I try and request to meet up online? Or should I try and find him in person? To those of you who might recommend telling her, either you tell him, or I will, hell no. I'm not gonna give her an opportunity to weave some bullcrap tale of how she had an emotional affair with me, moment of weakness, or some crap. And to those of you who champion breaking up with her, and just staying out of it entirely, GTFO. I'm not going to let her continue to lie to and betray him under the excuse that it's not my problem anymore. I'm not a crappy person, I won't give her a free pass for cheating. Update. Currently typing this from my hospital bed because he beat the crap out of me. Just kidding. Some posters tried to tell me not to tell him, but duck that. Most of you told me to go through with it, but through email letter, basically without physical interaction. Even though it was a massive risk, I thought it would be better for me to explain this crap to him in person, so I decided to meet him. I called work explaining I'd be late, and then drove over to his workplace around 7:20 a.m. Then I just went inside and waited in the lobby, watching the door for him to appear. He came in around 8 a.m. and immediately I walked up to him, told him by name I have something important to tell him, and asked if he could meet me after work at a nearby Starbucks. He was perplexed, but I convinced him that it's very important and told him not to tell anyone. He agreed, thankfully. So then I went to my job and went about the day as usual. At 5:30 I was waiting at Starbucks and he came in shortly after. Then the conversation began. I explained to him that what I was gonna say would crush him, and I requested a chance to say my piece without interruption. He allowed this, so I told him everything. About how I met his wife, how she used a fake name, the 5-month affair, the lengths she went to conceal it, everything. For my own safety I emphasized how I didn't know she was married, how I found out about her secret, and how I decided to tell him as soon as I found out. I then handed him a folder containing all of the screenshots. He looked through all of it, and then just stared at his coffee in total silence for a minute or two. He then replied, firstly thanking me for coming to him with this information and for doing the right thing. He said if he were in my position, he would have done the same thing. Then he told me how he had suspected his wife was cheating, but then his wife lied to him, assuring him nothing was going on. Then for the next 10 minutes he asked questions about the affair, like about the dates we went on, the sex. She never did this kind of sex with him, but did it often with me, the conversations we had, etc. I told him the complete truth. By the end of this he was enraged, but didn't attack me or anything. Instead he thanked me once more for telling him, and told me I'm a good man. Then he said that although he appreciates me telling him, he told me never to contact him again for obvious reasons. I totally understood and was cool with it. At this point he was getting up to leave, so I asked him what he plans to do. He said he would definitely divorce her, and that the screenshots would help him out since they apparently have an infidelity clause in their prenup. She cheated on him at the early stages of their relationship. I was elated to hear this, wished him the best of luck, and we parted ways. I paid for his coffee. So there it is. Thankfully, I escaped unharmed. No injuries, no wounds, nothing. I deleted the cheating witch's number and cleared my phone of all traces of this crap storm. I'm proud of what I did, and I pray that the cheating bitch faces harsh justice.